leave every situation you're in remembering about how you want to be remembered. What's the legacy you want to leave behind within your friendship groups, at home, at school? Because at the end of the day, tomorrow is not promised. So it's like understanding that, knowing the weight of our words.
Fill your schedule with productive activities. Try new things. If you don't know what the hell you want to be, you're going to figure it out. Keep going. Don't slow down. And believe in yourself and surround yourself around the good people and people that want the best for you. So
yeah, boys, we're doing a bit of a charity for the community today, and we want to give back to the black community.
There's a need in Australia, especially Melbourne, with the community we have down here. So we thought we bump you up with a special surprise.
In our approach to improving the lives of young individuals, even more specifically.
I was terrified. I saw Monday morning Mohamed comments on that. Mohamed, grab a word. All that means, get your bags, man. Let's come. Yeah, be you guys. Be. Yeah.
All right, we'll be us.
No, don't be you too much.
All right, let's get into it,
keep
boys.
it constructive.
All right, let's go. Welcome back to Talking Trophies. It's your boy Ravo.
Why you say it like that, bro? You sound like it's in your easy. Hey, yo, what's up? It's your boy Dame Dollar.
So we're giving ourselves new nicknames, yeah? Hey, make sure you guys do hit the subscribe button. Before we get into the video, we got two special guests. They're doing a big part to the community. They're doing a big part to Victoria. And also, they're making a change towards Australia. You know us, we're very patriotical in Talking Trophies. And we love this stuff. Don't we?
We are. Yeah, we care about our community just like everyone else around here, right? So we do take it serious. It's not always just banner.
So we got two individuals, both Mohammeds. So how are we going to differentiate you boys from each other?
That's a good question, man. You call me Semra.
Semra?
Semra social.
Motivational. Yeah.
Social.
Go Motivational.
We got Mosocial. Mosocial is
Impact.
talented. He does his thing. He's working in, you work in the school, Victorian Department of Education.
Yeah.
What do you specifically do there?
That's a good question. So, Ravo, what I do is I work with the African Australian community. So I work specifically with the African Australian community within the schools, the education system. So what we kind of do is try and keep African Australians engaged in education and making the environments that they learn in a safe environment, a welcoming environment, and one that's free of discrimination. So, and we do that through a couple of different ways. You know, and I'll get into a bit later on in the conversation, but the biggest part, the way we do that is we have two key projects that we're working on through the Victorian African Communities Action Plan. And it's about putting people who look like the students into the school system and to work with the kids through the school community liaison officer roles. So that's kind of the main function of the role, and alongside that we're looking to bridge the academic achievement gap. So we know that our young people, the African Australian young people, some of them are lagging behind academically, you know, and it's about building that bridge, the academic bridge, and getting them to realise their fullest potential, you know, and in a short version, we help the African Australian kids with their education.
You actually got such a smooth tone, bro.
Yeah.
I was going to say the switch up is crazy.
You saw the switch up, yeah?
We've talked about it before. We have a professional voice.
Professional, yeah. But that question was professional question.
I love it.
You know what I mean? I have to answer. I have to answer on point, on game. You know, I've got my other tone. The other tone's a bit louder.
This tone's a bit louder.
This one's a bit louder.
The way you answered was just such a smooth tone. Man.
Yeah. Because I was in a boardroom there. I wasn't here. I was in a different room at that time. I was presenting that one. That's what it was. That was too. The principals were in the room for that one. You know,
all smooth
and whatnot. So yeah.
Yo, okay.
Let us know about you.
Yeah, I consider myself a community person. So I run Endeavour Youth Australia, and I guess like Mo spoke about, like what I focus on is re-engage young people with their learning, right? Because I feel like education is the biggest equalizer. But obviously we have to understand that young people like ourselves, go through the education system and don't see themselves represented in staff, don't see themselves represented in the curriculum, and it's easy to disassociate yourself from an environment that you feel like doesn't have your best interest at heart.
Yeah.
So obviously, like me growing up and seeing myself get disengaged in my learning, seeing my homeboys get disengaged in their learning because of that disconnection with the school. So it's like, okay, how can I use my experience, the experience of my community, to fill those gaps? And like Endeavour Youth Australia's, the organization which I run, is a culmination of that experience. It's understanding that, like Mo touched on, creating better environments for young people. It's about trying to capacity build, trying to highlight young people that are doing amazing work, bro. And it's like, and it's sad to me that a lot of the times we don't get to see that. We don't get to see the young people that are like absolutely killing it.
I just want to say shout out to the black community because our professional voices are on point.
Hey, do me next.
All right, go.
Yeah, so I'm Damien, and I work for the community down here in Victoria. There's a need for the coloured community of the POC. That's what we call ourselves. And you know what? I'm a dancer, and I love to spread love through dance, whether it's mental health.
All right, boys, I gotta try it.
Let's go. Let's see what you got.
Actually, but the thing is, I don't want to talk about my career here.
Okay, and let's say waffle.
Let's say I'm an accountant.
So, Ravo, tell us about your career that you do, mate. What do you do for the community?
Hi, yeah. So I'm a recent graduate, actually. I just completed my master's in accounting, and I'm working towards becoming one of the top Australian accountants. Also working towards my CPA. I don't do much community work because I'm actually focused on the rat race, in which I want to make the Australian dream count. So I'm focusing on myself. Jeez. Yeah, I'm focusing on myself. How good's my? I'm not gonna
lie. You had me there. I was like,
I was engaged.
I'm on a self-improvement journey.
I don't talk like that at work.
I'm on a journey.
Yeah. I don't talk like that at work. But I can switch that up whenever the executive.
You know what? You have to have the gear. It's a prerequisite. You got to be able to change it up, turn it up, and just put everyone on their toes in the room. You know
if you're listening, you got to work on that professional voice.
Yeah. No, and the thing is, like, for example, a lot of our viewers are Africans.
Yeah.
They have to understand there is an environment for the way you speak. Obviously, it's not like come switch up the way you speak, like your whole tone and everything you are. Just, you got to be a bit professional.
It's your tone. It's the tone. It's the delivery. You got to be assertive with the tone, you know?
Yeah.
And it also depends on like what we're speaking about, right? So certain situations obviously demand that better articulation. Obviously certain situations, just kick back.
And relax.
Kick back, relax, yeah.
Boys, let's make this a kick back and relax safe environment.
Let's do that.
Hey, I'm not gonna lie. Hey, the professionalism is on point, but hey, there has to be something for. I don't know whoever wants to answer it first, but there's a reason why that you guys went down this pathway that you guys are choosing. What triggered it? Maybe was it something that like you grew up around seeing, or like in a deep, like what's your personal experience with it? Like an actual. Could you guys give it an example?
Matt, I'll start. So, growing up, I think you boys know about this, right? So, I had a very severe stutter, right? And so, for a very long time, I went through life not being able to like talk about certain things, not be able to articulate myself, right? It's like, for instance, trying to drive a car to accelerate while the brakes are on, right? And so I went through that up until I was like 15, 16. So there's so many instances where I wanted to obviously get involved in certain things. I want to touch on certain things, but it's like, okay, how am I going to do it if I don't know how to speak properly? And while I was experiencing all of this, I saw a lot of injustices around me, you know what I mean? And it's like, I grew up with certain values, obviously, like Islamic values. I grew up around certain values that like my parents instilled in me. And wanted to get involved and do this and wanted to join that leadership team and do that, or like fight against some of the racism that our community is experiencing, but not being able to pursue it because of that barrier, you know what I mean? And so after obviously understanding that I had this barrier and I had this obstacle, what can I gain from it, right? How can I use this adversity as a means to build resilience, as a means to give back to my community? And we'll touch on this later down the track, but the biggest thing for me was using my lived experience, right? Using what I went through and all the barriers that I had to ensure that I made it easier for our younger brothers and our younger sisters that come up
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And yeah, I guess like that's my biggest driver.
What about you, Mo?
Yeah,
Mo
look,
social.
my social. Yeah, my story is a little bit different as well, but there's a lot of similarities in Mohamed Semra's journey. You know, and my one, for me, it was a little bit different in the sense that I put myself in a situation. You know, for me, it was my lived experience, my process of learning, and what I kind of went through. I learned the hard way, you know, and made mistakes and found myself in a situation where I was paying the price for that mistakes that I made, and that came through the form of prison. So that was my kind of rock bottom, and I kind of share that with you guys for the purpose of kind of letting you in a little bit. You know, that's where my process of community work, you know, striving and giving back. That's where it was born. It was born from that period where I went through that. But for me, it was just it was what sparked from that experience, which is pretty full on. You know what I mean? Of experience and a hard way to kind of learn from your mistakes, and then to shift from that to wanting to give back. For me was, I'll tell you a story. It was when I was inside, and you know, I was very social, very communicative. You know, you want to know how everyone's doing and what's their story, kind of thing. Want to build those relationships inside as well. And a lot of the people that are in there, bro, they've got rough stories, bro. Yeah. I'm talking about, you know, stuff that they had no control over. You get me? So it's like, you can't choose your parents. You don't choose your situation, your environment. So for me, it was like, what the hell am I doing here? You know, I come from better environments, you know, I practice in family, you know, and put in effort, you know, mum, dad's striving, and for me it was, I realised that I didn't belong in that environment. I'm not saying anybody belongs in that environment, but for me, I had no reason.
You had what you needed.
I had everything, but I wasn't shortage of resources. It was just bad decisions and bad environments, you know, and we'll get into what that looks like later on. But for me, those conversations with my peers at the time that were kind of in that similar situation, it opened me up, you know, and I knew that I wanted to help those young people from never having to learn by going through it, you know, and I wanted to get access, you know what I mean, to those young people before they went down that spiral, the rabbit hole. Because once you're there, and we'll get into it a little bit later, it's a bloody tough journey, man. It's not easy.
It is. We'll get into that. We'll get back to that. I want to talk about the conference you guys ran.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's good.
You know, that was, from what I see, you had content creators. You guys didn't invite us. But you guys did have content creators, and you guys had leaders. You had a lot of stars. What made you guys think of running a conference, firstly?
Yeah.
And because, like, for example, me growing up, when I went to high school, we didn't have that. You know, you go to a conference. Like, the best thing we had in school was someone would come in and be like, yeah, I was a heroin addict for 40 years. Don't be on heroin. And like, everyone starts crying, blah, 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 and move on. I'm like, yeah, that did not motivate me one bit.
Yes.
But like, if I went to that conference, like,
would have changed things
African,
up a bit.
I'd be like, yo, this is tough, you know? So I want to know why you guys ran the conference. What was the purpose of it as well?
Yeah. Now, like you touched on it exactly, right? So how can we create something sustainable? Because at the end of the day, I remember when I was in school, I was in a workshop where, okay, like, it might have been an amazing workshop, amazing keynote, but I'll never see that person again, right? We might have built a relationship or a connection with that role model, for instance. I'll never see him again. So it's like, how can we create an environment that creates that sustainability in terms of identifying and investing in the younger generation? And it was a conversation that me and Mo had early on. Is, okay, there's a certain narrative that's in our community right now, right? So it's about how can we allow these young people that are going through the education system, that are going through certain environments, not having control over their own narrative. Everything being put on them by the media, by society, by the school. So how can they own their story, and how can they change that to be the leaders that we know they are? So for us, it's about creating that environment, and the conference was the perfect thing. Creating an environment where all these young people from multicultural backgrounds can come together and see other people that look like them that are excelling in their industries, whether it be creatives, whether it be government and politics, whether it be like entrepreneurial. Seeing that makes the biggest difference, because if you see someone in that position, you're going to be inspired
It's
to
possible.
take that step.
You
It's
think
possible.
it's possible,
You
yeah.
think it's possible. Anything you want to touch on, Mo?
Yeah, the first thing will be apologies for not inviting you guys. You know, let's start off with that. I reckon that's we've got
We're already starting our own conference.
we're in the process of finalising our evaluation report, and we're gonna have to add that into it. I think we let the community down. Community down. We missed. That's called a missed opportunity. That's what it's called. So, for Mohamed hit the nail on the head. So for us, it was we never had that, man. See, those type of initiatives didn't exist when we were in school. I'm saying when it's from the same exact era, but we're not. But more or less, that's the part of the problem. Mohamed and I, we're 6 years apart, you know, and his experience and my experience are scary
Exactly
similar.
the same, yeah.
That's a problem, you know, and we wanted to fill that hole, and it was about giving the students an opportunity to look up on stage and see people that look like them, people that talk like them, people that have, you know, shared experiences, lived experiences, and we want them to connect with everybody, you know, and that's what we did. So we put the right people in front of the audience and the young people and the students, and created a space that was designed for them by people who look like the students as well.
100%.
So
I'll just jump in there real quick. So if there is a consistent thing with all of the speakers that we had, right? They all had barriers and obstacles before they made it to where they are, right? There was instances where they could have said, I give up, like this is too hard. But they persevered. They used their adversity as a way to build resilience. Because a lot of the times, a lot of young people tell me, you know, it's hard, right? It's not even worth it. But what I try and tell them is it's going to be better at the other side. You just got to keep going, right? And something I liked about all the speakers that were there is that they were very passionate about what they did. They loved what they do. And obviously, if you love what you do, you're going to be good at it. And if you're good at it, you're going to excel at it because you're going to put the time into it, right? So we wanted to, I guess, show them what it takes to be in that position, but also experiencing what you're experiencing right now is not going to hold you from getting there. It's gonna be added strength.
Yeah, nice.
And one last point is around leadership. What does leadership look like in Australia? When you think about leadership, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
I think it's ScoMo.
ScoMo, white.
Flying off Hawaii, mate.
And
Shout out
it's,
ScoMo.
let's be honest, it's a white, wrinkly male. You know, that's what you think of leadership. We wanted to debunk that myth. You know, leadership doesn't look like that. That isn't true leadership. Leadership comes in all shapes, colours, forms. You know, and that was our biggest thing as well, and taking back that narrative. Mohamed touched on that earlier, taking back the narrative and moving beyond the point of, you know, multicultural communities are struggling to integrate into Australian society.
Stuff like that,
multicultural communities have outdated beliefs and values, and, you know, that rhetoric. That is complete BS, you know, and we showcase the best of the multicultural community. Well, we missed out on you guys, of course. You guys weren't on that.
Next time,
but
you really
but
did it. You killed it. Next time, bigger and better.
We almost hit that mark. You know what I mean? What I mean, but more or less.
Boys,
yeah.
I don't want to.
I was gonna say, like, because just on the topic of like events like this, what's the goal with it? Where do you want to go? Because like this was the first time you guys have come together for an event like this. Like, is this something you guys seeing like statewide? Is this something you see? Like, what's the dream? Like, do you guys actually have you guys even planned out a dream for this?
What's your mission statement?
Look, it's probably worth even clarifying now that MYLC isn't an organisation. You know, MYLC is an initiative that's led by Endeavour Youth Australia that is co-designed and co-delivered by Mosocialimpact. So I'll probably clarify that a little bit as well. And the mission, we can kind of talk about that as a collective, but I might get Mohamed to touch on it first, and then I'll jump in.
Yeah, so with, I guess, like what we're trying to do is create a platform, right? And obviously with any platform, you want to grow it as large as possible to reach as many people and to have as much impact. And like, I could not be more grateful, wallahi, to have someone like Mosocialimpact, like my brother, with the skill set that he has, and like coming together and collaborating on this. I see it reaching, I guess, like like thousands, hundreds of thousands even, right? Because the journey is always going to continue and there's always impact to be made. And he touched on it before. What is leadership, right? Leadership isn't about having a position of power. Leadership is about making it easier for the person that comes after you. Because at the end of the day, there's people that are leaders at their homes. You know what I mean? There's kids that are literally raising their younger siblings. There's kids that are year 3, year 4 that are filling out government forms for their mums. You know what I mean? But that doesn't get addressed. No, year 3, year 4. You know? Right?
Years 3 and 4.
Okay.
Years 3 and 4. That's what he meant to say. So-
Great. But that doesn't get highlighted, right? They come to school and everyone's like, okay, what? Like he's not a leader. That's why no matter how small of a step it takes, no matter how large it is, there's always something to be made. And a small act of kindness will create an endless ripple. And that's what we're trying to do with this.
So I'm not gonna lie. A lot of these like people that come into the schools and stuff, it's not realistic. If I'm being real, even going to school, it's not realistic. Like the reality is that like someone in your year level is gonna get locked up. Someone in your year level is gonna do some sort of violent act. Someone in your year level is gonna end up a junkie one day. But the thing is that they're not actually. I feel like a lot of schools, they don't have the right people actually coming in with the actual right experiences equipped to go like, nah, like this is how you actually do the next step. Like it's always nice to have someone go in and be like, yeah, like boys, just put your chin up and just don't hit women, and that's how you get through life. But like, it's a different reality when all your homies are like, you know, getting on the weed, they're getting on this stuff, going down this path, and that's how it all starts. It all starts with the boys posting up in one spot, and then it unravels. Some of them go down this pathway, some go down another. So before you know it, your boys are bikie or something, you know. Like but they don't have the right people actually talking into this stuff. You know what I'm saying?
And the scariest, I always say, you know what I always say is the most scariest thing is a young person without a schedule.
Yeah.
You know, without any sort of no vision or no schedule. You know, when I work with young people, the first thing I kind of ask them is, show me your schedule. And if they don't have one, most of them that are going through some sort of trial or tribulation don't have a kind of clear plan on their schedule, and it's empty. Or once we work back and we kind of lay it out, we realize, hey, there's too much time here. And when there's too much time, what happens?
You get bored, you do the most random stuff.
So too much time leads to, hanging around certain environments. Once you're around certain environments, it opens you up to what? Bad decisions. When you make bad decisions, you're going to get bad outcomes. You see, that cycle there is not going to change.
Yeah, 100%.
Too much, it all starts with the schedule, activity, and a plan. You know, some sort of plan or schedule. Yeah.
Look, boys, there's going to be a viewer watching this right now that's on the Uncle Ruckus vibe and saying, look, I've been put through the same education system as most of these individuals, and I turned out fine. What's wrong?
Okay.
Do you know, like, they're saying, like, mate, you know, like, dad pays the bills, I go to school, I come home, I might go play soccer or footy after school. I haven't gotten arrested. Why am I, like, why is this why is it being emphasized so much? Because a viewer might think that right now while they're watching it. So I want you guys to touch on that.
Yeah. So I feel like, right, across the board, there's obviously stuff we can't ignore, right? We can't ignore the fact that in our education system, there isn't the representation that we need, right? So for example, if we're talking about a small example, I never went to the student well-being team at my school, primary school or high school, because I saw no one that looked like me there, right? I would hand in an essay, for example, and the first response was, Mohamed, did you copy this, right? There was always a preconceived idea on my behavior and my intentions. And that's when even if I was at the workplace or out in the community or at school, I had to put this energy around that I'm friendly, right? Smile, maybe if I'm having a bad day. And it's a built up thing that occurs as you're growing older, that if someone doesn't have that resilience, if someone doesn't have that perseverance, they're going to say it's not worth it, right? It's not worth it to I guess, like, prove to everybody that I'm not who they're saying I am. You know what I mean? And also the lack of opportunity we need to address. It's applying for a job, right? And so, okay, you know, my name is Mohamed Semra. You know, do I have to call myself whatever, something else?
Mo.
Shout out to all Mo's.
Shout out to Mo's.
Shout out Mo's. But yeah, so obviously every situation is different and everyone has different circumstances, but it's about understanding and having the honesty to highlight the issues that need to be addressed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, we're not going to give up on our young people, right? I don't care if someone came out of prison. That, like, you know what I mean? That there's no giving up and there's no just classifying them into a group. Everyone's a leader. And then you might not see that, right? But like I said before, might be a leader at home. There might be a leader in their friendship groups and on all that stuff. So the moment you tap into that potential and you invest in it, you're going to see a major change.
Nice. Mo, let's go back to the prison experience, the one where like you came out and you saw people in the same situation as you know, like before that, like similar to like they're falling into these little holes, like, and I've seen it a lot growing up because I grew up in public housing, so I've been around like people that are in and out of the system constantly. Like you'd see a guy locked up and then he'd be out, you'd be chilling with me, hey, what's going on? And then
he's back in.
Yeah. Obviously, from experience and working with young people like in that field, what's the issue? Like, what's this loophole people are in? Is there no motivation?
It's more than that, man. And look, Raver, that's a good question. You know, when somebody goes into the system or enters the youth justice or the adult criminal justice system or corrections, whatever they call it nowadays, it changes your life significantly. Especially if you're over the age of 18 and you do a crime, or even when you're under the age of 18, it sticks with you for a shorter period of time. If you're over the age of 18, in Victoria, it was I think 2021, the spent conviction scheme came into Victoria. Yeah. Before then, it was with you for life. Do you know what I mean?
Was it 2021? I thought it was earlier. If you're under 18,
it was 2021. If you're under 18, it was a 5-year period gone.
Okay.
But if you're over the age of 18 when you've done your crime, it's with you for life. But 2021, that changed. They put in the spent conviction scheme. So that means after a 10-year period, it lapses. It goes away. So the biggest part, to answer your question, is when you go in and you've been convicted. So that means the judge has ruled on you. You're guilty of whatever you've done. You know, now you're going to go in, serve some time, and then you've come out you've done your time, you've paid your price, you know, your debt to society, and you've come out now. One thing that you don't realize is that you're carrying, especially for that period when you just get out, it's fresh, and you're carrying that judgment that comes with the experience of entering the system. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then that doesn't go away. You apply for a job, it's with you. You know, you go, you know, you're trying to better your life and you're trying to progress and get better and do better. It's hard. It's not an easy journey. It takes, you know, it builds your thick skin, it builds your resilience. You know, you imagine going into an interview room and having to tell 4 strangers who you just met,
that you've been in.
Hey, I've got to declare something. Do you know what I mean? I've got to declare that when you do my police check, you're going to see A, B, and C. Yeah. This is the backdrop story behind it. But even then, how many people feel comfortable doing that? Yeah. So a lot of my friends didn't declare it. Yeah. A lot of people I knew didn't declare it. They'll start the job, get the job, and then 2 weeks in, hey, your check came back. We're going to let you go because you didn't declare it. You get what I mean? So it's like you're doomed if you do, you're doomed if you don't. You declare it, we're judging you. You don't declare it,
you're going to get fired.
Hey, Mohamed, can you get your stuff? Yeah. We're gonna speak to you outside the door. Not even in the building, outside. We're gonna speak to you outside. Do you know what I mean? Just quietly get your stuff. You see where I'm coming from? So that type of experience. So when you say why is it so difficult for somebody to break away from that cycle, you have to understand that society is at times is not the most forgiving. Yeah. You know, and things have been structured in a way to kind of screen everything, and which makes sense, but unfortunately there is a sense of discrimination, I would call it, because if somebody is fit to work in that workplace and the crime, the risk isn't there of them, you know, committing, if they've been convicted of child abuse or whatever it is, you wouldn't put them in a daycare center. You get what I mean? You would mitigate that risk, but then what happens is a lot of people get put into any sort of conviction. You're kind of a write-off. You know what I mean?
But I don't know. Like with that, like I think having that criminal record, and you know, you saying like should they be in there? Like, look, you did the crime, you do the time. And then after you do the time, you got to understand, because like if society doesn't put emphasis on this, bro, everyone's going to be like, you know what, I can do a crime and then in 2-3 months I'll be cleared, bro. Do you know what I'm saying?
But that's
So-
where you
so
go. That's
I'll-
where.
I'll-
Let
I'll-
me. That's very valid. But the time is you've been sentenced. You've been charged. You've been sentenced. The judge has given you your time to go serve. Once you've served that time, the part is now when you're trying to better your life and
It's hard to progress after.
to be an asset to the community. We want to, that's all it is. You want to be able to give back to the community and add value to society. That's how society works. Works on and serves as a function that we all contribute to this thing. This machine, everyone, it's incumbent on every one of us to add value to this. Do you know what I mean? We've got a social responsibility, collective. You get me? How am I going to fulfill my collective responsibility if you won't let me better my life? You get me? You're not going to let me go and work and strive for my family and do things, and better my life. So it's like a double-edged sword there.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree with you. You do the crime, you're gonna have to be accountable. And in every way, shape, or form, I was. Do you know what I mean?
I understand, because like I had, like, for example, I had boys that have had this conversation with my homeboys. They were locked up, and I was like to them, hey, like, bro, you're struggling to get a job because you got convicted, bro. Like, in the end of the day, like, you got to face you got to understand, like, if you don't face this punishment, young kids are going to come and say, hey,
and you go through a cycle.
they're going to go through this cycle.
I'll just jump on real quick, right? So there was a report that was recently done, and it basically concluded that locking up kids isn't the answer, right? It's not. All it does is gives them access to the justice system, and it creates that cycle of reoffending, right? So it's about thinking outside of the box, thinking of innovative solutions to the issue, right? At the end of the day, now, like, right now, we need to raise the age of criminal liability, right? And that's, I think, like 10, right? First of all, it needs to be 14, because kids 10, 11, 12 years old shouldn't be getting locked up, right? And it's about now trying to think of the preemptively work towards not letting them be in those situations. And that's why, I guess, like, I started Endeavour Youth Australia. It's about finding out, okay, the biggest thing that made a difference for me was I was engaged in my learning when I was like year 11 and 12, right? I was engaged in my learning. Because I was engaged in my learning, it led me to, okay, I can do this, or I can achieve that stuff, right? And I got lucky, I'm not gonna lie. Opportunity just happened to fall on my lap. But if that didn't happen, I would have gone down an antisocial path. So it's now, okay, we need to think innovatively. We need to stop locking up kids, because it's not the answer. And if we're saying, okay, reoffending is the issue, then we have to find a solution to, obviously, employment, right?
It's a big component. You look at it. If you want to punish somebody, take away the ability to earn for themselves, and that's how you create dependency. And what you kind of get is you're going to get a desperate young person who wants to do better, who wants to strive, who wants to work for themselves and kind of to earn money the right way, but we're not allowing them. We're not giving them the chance to go and do that, man. So you got to really think about it. Are we trying to punish people over and over again, or are we trying to say, hey, you've done your time, how can we help
to re-engage better in society,
to get you some employment? And in me saying that, there are great programs out there. There's good people out there.
Exactly.
And it's not me saying everybody was shit house and everyone else is looking at me. And it's not a poor me kind of mentality. In no way it's a poor me, but it's like, we've got to do something about this, because I know young people that are not as resilient, who are not going to go to 10, 11, 12, 15 interviews and keep getting knocked back. You get me? That takes a different level of character now. You get so accustomed to no's. You're working on your strategies. Do I tell them at the beginning? Do I tell them at the end of the interview? When do I kind of break it to them? And it just becomes, every interview you get out of, you're exhausted emotionally. You're giving your most vulnerable self for that period. You know what I mean? You're giving 4 strangers, 3 strangers, your most deepest, darkest, or probably your worst hour. You know what I mean? And that comes with a level of, it taxes you emotionally, man. You're you come out, you're like, whew, I hope they don't judge me. You get me? So it's like,
and I'll just touch on that real quick. I feel like inspiration is the biggest driver to change, right? So growing up, I was always one to like lead by example, right? I'm not gonna be out here telling my friends, hey, don't do this, don't do that, right? Obviously I'll tell them, but at the end of the day, no one's gonna respond well to lectures. It's about trying to lead by example, and oftentimes people, the reason why I'm doing a lot of the things that I'm doing or getting involved and volunteering and starting my business is because I want a young person to say, if Mohamed can do it, I can do it too, right? It's about creating that path of now it's viable, right? Because it's hard to start a precedent, it's hard to be the first to do something, but once that way is paved, it makes it easier for other people to follow. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's what a lot of people in our community are doing, but they're not being highlighted, you know? And that's why we formed a conference as a way to show all these young people, right, that might feel like, okay, that's my only path down the track, but hey, no, there's all these other young people that look like you that are doing this, that are doing that, that are doing that. These are their stories. This is their formula to success, right?
So what age group do you guys target then?
So now I guess it's at the beginning it was obviously high school kids, but now I'm doing primary schools as well. I'm obviously trying to work in community because one, it's important to re-engage young people with their learning, but also to re-engage them in their communities. Okay. And that's why we do like the futsal tournaments, and now I'm trying to do like more stuff to
for younger kids,
for younger kids and also around that age when they finish high school.
From what I understand, what you guys have been explaining, kids are getting locked up. They're coming out of the system and they're saying, hey, I can't get a job and I'm struggling because I'm been going to interviews and stuff and I'm getting pushed back. And then that's why I asked you what age group you guys are targeting, because I feel like the most important age is to get them early yeah. Between the 12s, the 14, because that's when you start making the homeboys start.
And then also like that's that identity phase when kids are coming out of when they're too young, and then they actually want to be cool. They want to be older. They want to be seen. So that's why it's like that is so like pinnacle to like what pathway they're going to go down.
And that forms the identity. Like, you know, for example, if you guys do present this to young kids, because personally I didn't, like, for example, I grew up in a similar situation where it's like public housing, you don't really know who you are, you know, there's community organizations going on. Everyone says, hey man, these guys are setting us up, or you know, Victoria Police are coming around doing like community work. We're thinking, who are these guys? We don't trust them. So it's like, we didn't know who was who, you know. But then, for example, with me, like, I'm blessed, you know, and I'm grateful for it. I had my parents, you know, and my father, homeboy used to take me cleaning with him. He used to do cleaning back in the days, my dad. So I used to go with my dad and see him cleaning, and then he used to tell me, if you continue like being a bad boy in school, because I was pretty bad in school, you're gonna be cleaning like me, and you're gonna be doing this in the future. Yeah. So me, I said, you know what, I don't want to be a cleaner. I'm not gonna do it. So I used to go to school, and like even in year 10, my school took me to the side and said, hey, listen, we're trying to kick you out. You're not a bad kid. We just need to get you on something else because the schooling stuff's not working. So then I ended up doing like extra tutoring in year 12, and then I ended up like, bro, I had to learn like adjectives in year 12 before doing the exams and writing essays. Like I used to do after school classes. So the thing is, I didn't have the community initiative. You just had to do it because I remembered I don't want to be a cleaner when I grow up, and I did this, you know. But like with these kids, it's like, I don't know, like what's their motivation?
I'm not gonna lie, but I'm gonna put you raise a good point, because like, you know, you're saying it was your dad. He showed you that way. Like when it comes to like a lot of these kids, a lot of people, they blame the education. They're like, oh, the education, it fails African community kids. Or like, where do you reckon, like what do you reckon is like not like there's a main source of the fault or whatever goes on, what causes kids to go down a certain path or directory in their life, but like a lot of people, they blame the education department, they blame certain schools. Like what plays a huge significant part that you guys have seen just based on like a lot of the kids you guys face?
I'll touch on it a bit as well, but look, I'm not wearing my Department of Education hat on. Just gonna flag that. This is my personal view, and building on your point, Raver, it's you made a conscious decision. Hey, I'm going to see this through. Your old man showed you a path that you didn't inspire you, you know, and that's kudos to your old man there, Pups. He did something that's very commendable. He filled your schedule and filled it with something that you found uninspiring. That you said, hey, I don't want to go down this path. I'm gonna focus on what I have got going on here. Not everyone has that. It's about realizing that first.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody has that person that's kind of got them under the wing saying, hey, this is the way forward. This is, if you want to be successful, this is the path you got to lead. So once you understand that everybody's situations in schools, the family structures are different, you kind of, you can empathize with individual cases and the struggles that they face. Do you know, if you've got a family of 11 kids, how's the parents going to get all 11 kids at an academic level? You know, performing and somebody's going to be lagging behind. A couple of them will be lagging behind. You get what I'm coming from? And if she's a single mum, there's only no man in the house, it gets even more difficult.
A single mum with 11 kids. when the pops leave.
Hey, in an overcrowded home. Like you see, you know,
100%,
situations are tough. These are situations that exist. But it's in me saying that, I say what you'd hope happens is the support and the programs and the initiatives that are into the school environment. That's why education is important. Because if we lose young people, drop out and disengage from everything, what's the thing I said before? It's the schedule. Show me your schedule. That's a blank schedule. That's the scariest thing. When someone has a blank schedule all the time in the world, that's a recipe for disaster. Do you get what I mean? So it's about putting, that's what my programs at that through my day job with the department, that's why I'm a big believer. That's why I applied for that role. Do you know? And it was a role that I saw that I could add value because I wasn't a great student. You know, I wasn't an A+ student. You know, I actually got expelled a couple of times. I was pretty bad.
Mate, you had a double life before.
That's why. Sometimes I reflect.
Where the professional voice came from?
Sometimes I'm looking around. I'm like, look, I'm part of conversations, and you're adding value to conversations, but you're like, you can't help but reflect that your journey. I wasn't academically struggling. I was just uninspired.
True.
100%. So it's two different things. I was always, if I want to put my head down, I'll get whatever mark I wanted to get. But I'd come to class, turn my back to the teacher, disengage type of thing. You know,
I genuinely believe that no one's actually dumb.
100%.
Yeah, people say, oh, I'm dumb. Like I actually wasn't good at school. Like no one's.
No, I've seen some dumb people.
I've
seen some people. I'm looking at them and I'm like, guys, is this person an NPC?
You got to do what you love, bro.
I mean, the guy can do what he loves and he's still dumb, brother.
I don't believe that.
The guy's still dumb.
Because wait. You need to understand what that love does for you. What that passion does for you. It allows you to put the time into it. It allows you to work hard. Because there's a lot of people that are moving on talent. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people that I see that are moving on talent. But what happens when you are met with another talented person or a group of talented people? What's the difference? The difference is who loves it the most, right? Who wants it the most out of them. It's who's disciplined, you know, who wakes up early, like who puts down the work. Because at the end of the day, I know you guys heard this, but talent, hard work beats talent when talent fails to work hard. You know what I mean? And I truly believe that. If everyone, and it's about finding those tailored approaches that, okay, what does this kid love? Because growing up, I told you guys before, I had a stutter, right? According to one doctor, it was one of the most severe stutters they've ever come across, right? And I was disengaged in school. I'm not gonna lie. Like I used to, like my head will twitch, my tongue will come out. Like it was very bad. And I used to obviously I used to get in fights. I used to get suspended, and at one point almost got expelled. So I saw myself going down a path of, you know, like I can't become a lawyer. I can't become an engineer. I can't do any of those things because I don't have the ability to talk. And I remember year 10. I was very articulate when it came to writing, right? I was like, you know, A's and stuff. My teacher was like, Mohamed, join debating. I laughed at her. I thought she was making fun of me. I was like, why would I join debating if I can't even speak properly? But she was dead serious. So she went out of her way, sought a speech therapist course for me to enter at La Trobe University. I learned how to speak from the very beginning. It was a 2-week intensive course, 8 to 4 p.m. And I came back to school, bro, and it was like a whole chains were released from me. You know what I mean? Freestyling all life. The guy started the movement. He started the movement. I started rapping, man. And
he literally started the movement.
Against you guys.
Hey, well, what'd you say? And like, I came back to school and it was an epiphany, right? So for the first time, I could apply for that, or I can have conversations with my friends. I can order McDonald's by myself. I don't have to beg my mom or my sisters to go for me. So first thing I did was join debating, right? Debating never had a black person or an African or a multicultural young person in it before. When I joined, 3 months down the track, our entire debate team was now African, right? So my friends saw me join, they joined, and we went undefeated for the first time in our school's history, you know? And it was the beginning of understanding what it meant to be a leader, right? And what it meant to actually, because at the end of the day, I tell all young people this, right? Apply regardless, because it's not rejection, it's redirection. And it's understanding that everything happens for a reason. It's understanding and actually internalizing it, that, okay, there might be a barrier or obstacle in my way, but this is being given to me for me to grow, for me to actually, you know, shift and change and understanding that. And I would not take away my stutter, bro. Would I go back and say, you know what, like I was made fun of my whole like primary school and early high school experience. I had days when I was like, fuck, why me? Would I take that away? I won't, because it made me the person I am today. You know what I mean?
On that, you see, you said something. A teacher told you, go do this. You know, there are teachers out there that I genuinely want to give you a chance, because that's what triggered me, because that teacher came to me. She heard I had a meeting with the vice principal telling me, hey, we're going to kick you out. And then she sat me before I got into like year 12 as well. She literally said, hey, what's going on? Like, I see you when you tried it, when we do like in accounting. She was my accounting teacher. Shout out Miss Skipper. I don't know if you're dead still, but
shout out to Miss Skipper.
She's she's still around. She used to love toughies. She used to smoke a lot.
Who paid for your tutoring? Was it out of pocket?
What tutoring? The school?
The
No,
school.
my teachers did it.
So they paid. So they treated you.
They sit down after
back.
class. So she literally said, hey, listen, we used to do some like initially on Wednesdays where you finish early but you can stay back.
Yeah.
But there was a teacher that would stay back, like literally one teacher would stay back on Mondays with me teaching me English.
Yeah.
Wednesday I'll do accounting, and one teacher will teach him how to write essays, because I didn't know how to write essays. And the history teacher, I did history. I'm not gonna lie, the teacher was pretty good looking. That was my motivation.
Okay. Initially.
Yeah.
Initially.
Huh?
Initially, that was your motivation at the beginning.
The whole time, bro.
It's still his motivation. It's still his motivation.
To this day. Hey, what do you mean? This teacher?
To this day.
This teacher, bro, she ended up making me the best essay writer in history.
My man.
And the kid that was second to the best,
Yeah.
rocked up on the day. I remember we were doing the exam. This guy was vomiting. He was sick. I looked back. I said, man, this is my favorite teacher to this day.
To this day, my man.
Wait, how about this, right? If you ask anybody that we went through education, they're going to find one or two teachers that actually changed their lives.
100%.
And you have to understand, right? What was the differentiator in our past? It was the identifying, but it was also the investing, right? So my teacher identified that I was articulate when it came to writing, but she also went out of her way and invested in that potential. So it works hand in hand, right? At the end of the day, I can now identify a lot of young people that I absolutely have conversations with them, and amazing, like, you know, leaders, but they don't have that investment. They don't have that opportunity. So it's the onus then falls on us, as like all the people in the community that have gone through that have had the opportunity to be where we're at today. It's like, okay, how can we give back, and how can we identify in these young people's potential, but also invest in that? And I feel like that's what every single program needs to do to be sustainable. It's not about giving a hand out, it's about giving a hand up, right? Allowing the young person to then go and succeed, you know what I mean?
And every one of us at some point or another needed the hand. You know, someone to kind of go back and pull us back up. You know, and in my journey as well, same thing. Like, when I tell you it's difficult, it's hard to get a job, right? At that point, when you're trying to do better and get better and whatnot, you still meet people along the way that kind of help give that boost, you know? And then take you to the next opportunity. And then you might have a couple hours and then bang, you got another win. So it's a process. And shout out to Miss Skipper, man. She sounds like a real one. But that's what we're trying to do in the education space through my day job. It's about putting people in the schools that we work within, the 24 schools or whatever, and people that care about the kids and understand their lived experiences. Do you know what I mean?
Like Lovin.
Like
Let's talk about her.
Hey, real one.
Shout out, love
Yeah.
That's someone that's actually
Shout out.
motivated.
She's passionate, man. She's
like,
really
from what I see,
passionate.
Damien works very like with the schools and works closely with her.
Yeah.
And sees how motivated she is. You can elaborate on
She
that.
loves
a
what
little
she
bit.
does. She loves it.
100%.
So is that what makes a difference? Like,
A teacher like that definitely makes a difference.
Yeah.
Like, because for me, I go into like, And even like a big shout out. Like again, we said it again, but shout out to people like London. Honestly,
Yeah. Shout out to
like,
lads.
She's getting
Shout out to
in
lads. We see you,
people,
man. We
getting
see
in
you.
actual artists, getting in people who actually have a care. They actually care, but they're not there to make a buck. It's not about making a buck, even though that money is really good. I'm like, no. On the real. But like, it's about actually coming to school. You should see some of the videos. I'll show you guys some of the videos. But like, it's just funny when you see the pure joy in the kid's face. When they come and they go, no way, like this guy's actually a crazy dancer. She's not just waffling. Like, it's actually someone that cares about. And like for me, when it comes to dancing, you know what's the best feeling as a dancer? When you see someone, the whole class, they flop it at making a move. Yeah, they can't. They got 2 left feet, but by the end of the class, they start hitting that move, and then the joy on their face.
Yeah.
You know they're doing something. Like they're going somewhere with this. Like
100%.
it's uplifting, and I think like it's powerful having teachers like this, or even like influencers like this in your schools. It's like. It's huge. Like for me, even as a dancer, like I had a teacher that used to stay. She used to leave the gym open after school, and she'd come back at 6 o'clock just to lock it. Because I'd stay back for 2 hours, 3 hours after we finished, just practicing dances, practicing dances. And the one thing he literally said to me, he was like, "Never stop dancing, or I'll come and kill you." I'm not joking. As a joke, we had banter like that, but he was like, "Never stop dancing, or I'll come and kill you." Because on the real,
You still have nightmares, don't you?
no, yeah, because I still
The
twitch
guy's
every
still
day.
dancing till he's done, brother.
Guys, why do you think I'm doing all these events?
Hey,
Guys, I got a gun to the back of my head. Guys, I don't want to do it. Nah, but for real, like, but it takes people like this in your life to go, you know what? This isn't about school. It's not about you getting a good mark. I'm here to see you do good things. Like,
And they see it.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, the young people, the students, they know who's there for the paycheck.
100%.
And who's there
They can see
because
through the
they
bullshit,
want to
man.
see you succeed.
Guys, you know how many times in school you hear the teacher that's like, "Oh, I really wanted to do this and didn't end up doing it because of my grades, so now I'm a teacher." Like, man, like you know what I
I'm
mean?
stuck with you.
Yeah.
You're but reality, London, that's what she operates from the heartstring.
Yeah,
She's
100%.
passionate, loves what she does. All the school liaison officers, I'm blessed that the whole team is passionate.
Yeah,
You know,
even
and
other
they-
ones. There's
and
so
other
many
ones,
out there.
and they love what they do,
Yeah.
and that enables them to get good results.
And it also shows, and you touched on it a bit, the power of representation, right? I feel like because in an environment, like we said before, where you don't see yourself represented in the staff, you don't see yourself represented in the curriculum, having such a figure, like a loving person that loves what she does, that always, like has conversations with the kids, and you can see she's there to do it because she wants to see you succeed, like Ludden, in that school. It allows you to then feel like, okay, this is a safe space, you know what I mean? Like this is a place now I want to go, that I know that someone like Ludden has my back. Yeah. And I feel like that's the most important thing.
And can I just say, when I was in school anyway, I don't know about when you guys were in school, we didn't have someone that was young enough to connect with their experiences.
100%.
Even if they did have somebody of the African background in the school, there was a huge disconnect in age.
And the cultural awareness too, bro.
and the language. And it was like, I can't vibe with you right now
100%.
because you don't get me.
No.
You don't get what I'm going through. You don't get what I'm kind of struggling with.
Yeah.
And
You get
and it was
Susan, who's
disconnect.
like 50 years old,
Or even
who
if I was-
hates Africans,
Yeah.
and she's meant to help you when you got a cut on your leg.
She's African,
So-
but she's African.
Yeah. so sometimes even having them just there is a win. It's a big thing, you know. So
Cause the closest thing we had was a Filipino cleaner, cuz.
shout out to the Filipino
Yeah,
cleaner.
shout out to him, right? He dabbed you up. He walked into school dabbing
that's
everyone up,
insane.
cuz. Yo, what up?
We, look,
Yeah.
we love them more. We love them more.
You know what it is about?
Yeah.
I reckon the teachers that everyone says is racist
Yeah.
is low-key the ones that actually
Kid,
love
the
Africa.
kid.
100%, cuz. Because they're pulling you up.
Because
They're
they-
doing what, yeah.
There was one teacher, Kaz, shout out to him. This guy, Kaz, I'm not gonna lie to you, he was walking on a thin line between. So the guy, Kaz, we used to come into class and he'd look at us and he'd go straight up. He'd look at us, he goes, "Boys, we're not having this African time here." Because Africans are never coming
African
late.
time. What a legend.
We're not having none of this here. But at the same time, I used to stay back and be like, "Hey, yo, help me with this." And he'll be like, "Yeah, mate. So you got no." Slaps me on the hand. You got to do it, and it will take time to sit down with me, you know. So
Yeah.
it's like sometimes you gotta. I feel like
Yeah,
If you can tell me off, you got to show me how.
yeah.
If you gotta,
exactly.
if you're gonna tell me off, you have to be able to take the time to show me how. That is a big thing.
100%.
You know, you can't. I respected those teachers the greatest. You know, they're the
It's what
ones,
you had respect for, honestly.
and
Wallahi.
and
You had
even
respect for them.
managers. even people that you work for in the same team that are leading your teams, they're the ones that I fuck with the most, to be honest, to be fair. We let us swear in the show?
You do whatever you want. You're the one that works for the Department of Education.
Hey, do you have your Department of Education hat on or what?
I said, do what you want, bro.
Back to the professional voice, guys. But no, I'm joking. But more or less, they're the ones that I rock with the most. I vibed with them. So they're the ones
But
that,
like, for example, with you guys, when you do your leadership programs, like I want to ask, do you tell the kids to go and have the initiative to go and tell the teachers, hey, instead of expecting, because I feel like a lot of kids expect the teacher to know, like, oh, I'm going through this at home. No one knows. No one can read your mind, you know. But why don't you why don't you teach these kids from young, like from that 12 to 14? Go speak up. Go to your teacher after school, after class, and tell them, hey, I'm having these problems, you know.
So like you touched on it, right? And then that's exactly what I do through my school programs. It's about working on capacity building for the students to better articulate themselves, right? And also working with these staff to build their communications, because it's important to acknowledge, right, that a lot of times it's miscommunication. You know what I mean? A lot of the times it's actually just not understanding and not being culturally aware enough to understand where the student's coming from, and the student not being able to articulate themselves the best way possible. So it's about, okay, upskilling them, capacity building, working on, I guess, trying to have them build on their leadership capacity at school, get them more involved in the curriculum, get them in leadership positions in school, get them involved in debating, you know? And then that way they feel more a part of the culture and more a part of the school, and that in turn re-engages them in their learning. Because at the end of the day, I'm going to leave after like a term, you know what I mean? But how can they then have more agency within the school in a respectful manner that then supports their personal growth way outside of high school? Right? At the end of the day, it's not just about now. It's about when they leave high school, what certain skill sets are going to remember with. The public speaking stuff, right? They're going to remember the times that we worked on a project at the school, right? So the project management and all that stuff. It's sustainable development. That's the most important thing for us, bro.
And competence breeds confidence. So,
mate, where are you getting all these?
I was going to say before. My guy. I said, you guys came here and you wrote quotes.
I use them so much that they're ingrained in my.
I love that. That's
in my,
good, man.
So competence breeds confidence. Once a student is more confident, they know how to navigate when they got an issue. They know how to seek help. You know, help-seeking behaviors is crucial. Well, we don't go up, you know, expressing our vulnerabilities, bro. We don't say, hey, you know what, Damo, I'm going through a tough time at the moment. I'm actually struggling, man. I'm waking up sad, and I don't know why, Damo.
You're bloody depressed.
But we don't feel like those conversations. We don't have them. We don't have. And if we do, it gets awkward.
It's like
Damo starts saying, "Fuck."
And
what's going on? And, you know, like,
Damon. So and also like with confidence, right? And this is why a lot of the times that I speak to young people, I get them to own their story. Because if your confidence is based on ability, for example, what happens if like you injure your leg, right? That's why your confidence has to be drawn from who you are and what you love and your passion. Because if you come to terms with, I guess, like the confidence that you build, like, okay, this is who I am, and this is my story, and I own it, that confidence is gonna be forever, right? Regardless of the ability, regardless of the thing, regardless of barriers, the obstacles, you're gonna persevere because your confidence is never gonna lack. That fire is never gonna.
What about I just wanted to touch on, because I think this is also a big issue that a lot of Africans are facing. Not even Africans, a lot of people are facing. I think friendship groups. You know, like with me growing up, obviously, like we were like the first generation of Africans in this school, specifically like as a group. Normally there'll be like 2 or 3 in the old year levels. This one we were like 10, 20, 10, 15 deep.
That's an army.
Yeah. Like I remember we all got into the school, everyone's like showing their papers. Yeah, we're all going to this school, you know? And then we got there and it's like, we were like followers in a way. Like, I don't like this teacher. Okay, we don't like this teacher. Hey, I'm skipping class. Okay, we're skipping class. You know what I mean? And like by year 9, bro, I've never actually got suspended. Surprisingly, that was like one thing I always flex on my parents.
Congrats, man. Congrats.
I've never got suspended.
Nah, you killed
But
it,
like,
killed it.
I remember I used to like, bro, wag school and stuff because the boys were doing it. I'm like, hey, let's go. You know, we go from like, hey, let's go eat here, and then we end up at State Library. Who remembers back in the days when we used to go to State Library? Do you remember that? Hey, how old are you?
We used to do
you are
RMIT.
borderline.
We used to do RMIT. We used to link up
RMIT
RMIT basketball court. We used to.
Yeah.
That's the one we used to turn up and play, shoot hoops.
You
And,
would just chill
and I
there.
wasn't a student. I ended up graduating from RMIT University.
Yeah.
But at that time, had no business being there.
Oh,
I was there to
You
hoop.
just see
and-
some of the older
and
boys, you
yeah,
just
yeah,
go
yeah.
chill there.
Yeah.
So it's like, and I was thinking like, when I reflect on it, I'm thinking like, what about if I just knew like, hey, if someone was talking to me about, hey, friendship groups, you know, or chilling with these boys, like an African telling me, hey, these like, look at your friends and be critical of your friends too.
And think about it for just before I lose my train of thought, I wanted to add to Ravo's point. You think about that friend that said, "Hey, let's wag." Maybe they were struggling academically, man. Maybe they didn't want to go to that class because they feel so incapable of connecting with the content, or they didn't feel confident enough, or they're so far behind. They're like, why bother going?
Nah, he said there was girls at the State Library, cuz I'll be
so-
honest.
so-
He said, hey, we're gonna go there.
That's
We
different,
went there,
right, bro?
And we ended up playing PlayStation, cuz.
Oh, inside, yeah.
It was more vibe. But I'm just saying, in
100%,
some
yeah, I get
situations,
you, yeah.
and on a more serious note, in some situations, there's some underlying stuff going on there too.
And with the leadership stuff too, right? So every time like I speak to young people or speak to young people, I get them to understand the concept of being a leader of self, right? At the end of the day, the first leader you need to be is a leader to yourself, right? And that's obviously the words you use, the actions you take, and at a micro level, that's your friendship groups, right? And it's frank conversations, honest conversations that we have with young people. It's about inspire your friendship group, right? Be that person that inspires those around you, right? Leave a conversation, and how do you want to be remembered? What's the legacy you want to leave behind?
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, lecture's never gonna go anywhere. But at the same time, where that young person, where that friend told the group, "Oh, let's go wag," and they all wag. But how about if we told them to go to a library, right? That means he has a certain standing within that group where people listen to him.
Yeah.
So it's about shifting, it's about focusing on those young people that have that camaraderie and that position within the group, to then work with them and work on them to use that to, I guess, like lead by example.
And put themselves in better environments. Remember I said,
Exactly, bro.
I said
Reflection
environments.
of your friends, man.
If you put yourself in a bad environment, you're gonna make some bad decisions.
Yeah.
There's that saying,
Irrespective, feel the greatest. You haven't got suspended one day in your life. You're gonna end up wagging anyway.
Yeah.
You're gonna end up. You know what I mean? Like, if you're a good, like a goody, but you hang out with some bad eggs. Let's call them bad eggs. You know what I mean? That are just a bit off the rails at the moment.
Nah, call him.
Is that? I'm not gonna lie, man. I was a class.
But what's gonna happen eventually is that you're gonna end up being one.
Of course, yeah.
100%.
There's that saying like what?
Yeah.
Tell me, show me your 5 closest friends. I'll show you
And
your
I'll show you
future.
Who you are.
And like, we're going to be honest, bro. Like, it's actually good sometimes, and it felt good being the class clown in your class. You know, what I mean, everyone laughing at your
everyone
jokes.
laughing.
Everyone's there, you just
Big
there like,
ideas.
and then you get kicked out of the class, and you're going to say,
like looking at you in the window.
Actually,
And like, I'm at the class
I
laugh,
got
you
a
know?
record for getting kicked out after taking one step
Oh
into
my
the class.
God, bro.
The teacher said, not a single person saying a word. Wallah, I took a step into the class. And he said, get out. But boys, before we do wrap up, because we got like 2 minutes to go, let's just say tips for young people that are watching this, and what's the future to come for you guys?
For me, I would say be resilient. Continue to push forward. Fill your schedule with productive activities. Try new things. If you don't know what the hell you want to be, you're going to figure it out. Keep going. Don't slow down. And believe in yourself, and surround yourself around the good people and people that want the best for you. So, seek help if you need to. It's not weak. Seek help. So that's another thing. Yeah.
Nice.
I'll say to every young person out there to own your story, find what you love and do that, and find allies around you, right? Because your leadership journey and your journey in general is one where you're always going to continue to grow, and you're always going to continue to face barriers and obstacles, but it's how you use those as opportunities to grow, as opportunities to learn, and also to really leave every situation you're in remembering about how you want to be remembered. What's the legacy you want to leave behind within your friendship groups, at home, at school, because at the end of the day, tomorrow is not promised. So it's like understanding that, knowing the weight of our words, and wanting to leave a legacy behind of impact. No matter how small, no matter how big, we can all make a difference. And it's about understanding that every impact is just as important. Yeah.
Damon, how you going to wrap this up, mate?
Boys, it's been an honor to have you two legends on. Honestly, I rated this podcast. I rated today's
100%,
episode.
100%.
Today's episode went hard. I think it was needed. But hey, you know what's graded? What you guys are doing what you guys are doing out there. There's no one actually like. People say, oh yeah, people is like. There's a lot of people in the community, but what you guys are doing, it's actually targeting a specific impact on like the education sector. It's an area that has lacked for many years, and we've seen our own personal friends be affected by it. So like, hey, we applaud you boys.
We love your
The
work.
legend,
We
bro.
love your
Thanks
work,
for having
guys,
us
man.
on, honestly.
I appreciate you guys. Make sure you, if you're still listening, check out their social platforms right here, and make sure you guys do subscribe as well to our channel. And also, if you want to be a leader, hit these guys up.
We got you.
Hey,
Yeah, I got
facts.
you.
We got you.
If these
Yeah,
We
guys,
got you. We got you. We'll see you at our leadership conference.
Yeah. And if we're not invited, put them on blast.
Yeah.
And we'll see y'all. We'll see y'all there as well. We'll see y'all.
besides
We'll
that,
see you guys there.
enjoy your night. Stay humble. Faith.
Love. Take care.